You're listening to the Truck Talk with Trivista podcast, brought to you by Trivista Companies, the ultimate source for all things trucking, and sponsored by Louisville Masonry and Stone in Louisville, Kentucky, where beauty and function meet. I'm Anita Massey, Director of Marketing for Trivista Companies. Thanks for joining us. So today our topic is careers in trucking, and we're being joined by Lindsey Trent, President of NextGen Trucking, and John Shireman, Trivista Partner and President of Trivista's Indiana and Kentucky region. Lindsey and John, thanks for being with us today. Lindsey, why don't you tell us about NextGen and the work that you guys do?
Sure. So we created the Next Generation and Trucking Association because of the workforce shortages. I mean, we talk about in our industry the driver shortage. There's a huge diesel technician shortage now. And we felt like we needed an industry-wide solution for this industry-wide problem. And so we decided to create the Next Generation and Trucking Association as a nonprofit trade association so we could get the industry to partner with us to raise awareness about trucking careers, but also to create programs and partner with programs so that more young people can get trained to become diesel technicians and to become CDL drivers.
John, can you explain why you think trucking is such a great career field for young people today?
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things that pop into mind immediately. I'd say the first one would be variety, and the second one would be opportunity for growth. So just to hit the variety piece of it, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of career paths you can choose if you're going into the trucking industry. So starting out with just like a logistics company, a trucking company that's going to haul freight. So a person that chooses to go into that field, of course, they can become a truck driver. Like Lindsey said, there's a shortage. There is such a high demand for truck drivers today. And even within that field, there's so much diversification. You can specialized haul. You can do teams hauling. There's just so many different things you can do. Also within a logistics company, if you're interested in maintenance, we talked about technician shortages as well. You can be a fleet maintenance director. There are safety director positions. If you're interested in sales, I believe they call them like a client management representative. So you can go into sales. I think I mentioned dispatching. I mean, really, the choices are limitless. And the great thing about all of these positions is they start out with really good pay, really good benefits, and I'm going to touch on opportunity for growth here in just a little bit as well. So if you move into what I do, I work in a truck dealership. So we do not haul freight, but we will supply equipment for the companies that do. So we will lease trucks and we will sell trucks. So just within a truck dealership, a young person that's interested in this field, they can go into sales, they can go into lease and rental. We have parts departments, we have service departments, body shop, fabrication, again, so many different choices. And all of these departments that I'm talking about, they have entry-level positions. And so a young person coming into this field, they don't need to worry about a lot of training. There's nothing more than we want to do than train people internally and watch them grow within the company. So again, there's just so many possibilities. That's where the variety comes in. With the opportunity for growth, I think I could just give you an example of that. Every person that we have in this dealership, whether it's in our service department or our parts department, they started out in an entry-level position. Every one of my service managers started out as a technician. Pardon me. Every one of my parts managers started out maybe in the warehouse or just as a driver. And one of my best examples is the general manager that I have at our Indiana locations, responsible for managing probably around 70 people at this point. Started out in our parts department, in our warehouse, checking in packages, worked his way up in the parts department. Then he went over to the service department, got into sales, and he's worked his way up to the general management position, which is obviously a really coveted position. So there's all this opportunity for growth. And there's nothing more than a manager or a president of an organization. There's nothing more they would like to see than to watch someone come in an entry level and grow to that capacity. So it's a great field. And one other example I'll give you is, it seems like when someone comes into the trucking industry, whether it's in logistics or a dealership, they don't leave. Right, Lindsey? I mean, I know you've been in the trucking industry for a long time. It's like it gets in your blood. So you may move to different facets. Like you may start out in a service department and move to a sales department, but you typically stay in this industry. So it's very fulfilling.
And I agree with that. I think that not enough young people know about the trucking industry, but it's a great industry and people are nice and down to earth. And so people tend to stay in our industry. But what appeals to Gen Z is that we do make a difference in everyday life. Over 70% of all freight is brought to us by truck. And so we have to have truck drivers on the road to keep our grocery stores stocked. We have to have technicians working on those trucks to keep them on the road. And if we didn't have the trucking industry, where would we be as a society? And so Gen Z wants to know that what they're doing is making a difference. And so if we can communicate that to young people and they can see themselves in it and helping us as a industry make a difference, then they're really going to get excited about our careers. But like John said, this generation also is entrepreneurial. And how much career path opportunities are there, even at one company, for a person to just start entry level and the sky really is the limit for them. And so there's so many opportunities, and we just want to get the word out there for that.
And one other thing, if I may, how many people do we know that are in this industry started out with one truck? And we're talking about like the trucking company started out with one truck, they grew it to 5 trucks, maybe 50 trucks, and now they own multi-generational companies. I mean, I could probably name off 5 or 10 right now. So
Absolutely.
Again, these people start in it, they stay in it, and it's a great industry.
Well, and that was one of my next questions is, do you guys see the truck driver profession, people have this stigma about it, that it's shrinking or the truck drivers are going away because of the future technology for autonomous trucks, for example. But I'm not hearing that. It sounds like this industry is doing nothing but blossoming, and it's becoming more diverse, and there's more opportunities. And to your point, people are coming in at a much younger age and staying. I know at Trivista Companies, they have a large percentage of their employees that have been around for decades. Multiple decades. Mm-hmm. So I think that's really cool that, it's not just a solid profession, but the company itself is very rich in culture and family values. So that's kind of exciting to see, I think.
Absolutely. And my co-founder, his name's Dave Dine, and he started a high school program in Patterson, California, at Patterson High School. It's a truck driving program. He created it 5 years ago. And one of his first students was really not succeeding in traditional school. And so the counselors kind of gave Dave this student as a problem student just to put him somewhere. But this kid actually found a love for his class and truck driving, and he literally was going down the wrong road. But when he took this class, he finally found something he was good at, and he could see a future for himself. And actually his father came in and said, "I want to shake your hand." And Dave was like, why? And he said, "You saved my son's life." And to this day, his 10 friends that he ran around that were, the problem kids at that high school, 3 of them have died due to gang violence. 4 of them are in prison. And so he is one of the ones that made it out, and it was all because of this truck driving program. He started driving immediately out of high school, and now he just this year bought his first truck. So he's become an owner-operator, and his goal is to own a small fleet of trucks.
That's awesome.
That is. And I've seen probably over the past maybe 2 or 3 years this paradigm shift. So at one time, you bring up such a good point, Lindsey. There was a period of time when those vocational programs at high schools, they would put the kids that didn't pay attention, and like the regular classes, they would put them over there. Now, I think teachers are understanding that that basically not everybody has to go to college, and there are these wonderful trades you can get involved with. And the vocational programs that I've seen that we may talk about a bit here in a couple of minutes are very robust. I can think of 3 locally that are putting a very strong emphasis on the curriculum and on really teaching these young people, what it means to be a truck driver, a technician, and to be an auto body, any of these things. And they are coming out of these programs, and I am incredibly impressed. And I'm talking about just compared to like 5 or 6 years ago. The past couple of years, it's been really great.
Yeah, and it's not just truck driving, it's all the trades that you mentioned earlier, for the parts, for the service, the distribution, supply chain, all of those things.
Absolutely.
So it's a kind of a total solutions provider, if you will, for those people that don't want to sit in the traditional classroom. So that's exciting.
It is exciting, and I'm really thrilled with what we're doing as an association, because there has been, because traditionally you can't hire a driver to drive interstate until they're 21. We haven't, as an industry, put a big focus on creating programs in high schools. And so there are a lot of other industries that are really beating us to these students. And so, for instance, there's over 3,000 construction programs at high schools across the country. There's 1,200 woodworking programs. And we've found about 160 diesel tech programs at high schools across the country and 9 truck driving programs across the country. So one of the things we're trying to do is to increase the number so we can get those students introduced to our industry and coming into our industry. Because right now, truck driving is a lot of times that second, third, and even fourth career choice for people. But what if we created it as a first career choice for people? The type of young people will get into our industry, they're going to be elevated, because they're going to be excited about trucking and not have the opportunity to go into other industries. But they're going to want to come into our industry and as a first career choice.
That's interesting. So after you've brought someone into your program, what is the process that you guys go through to connect them with a company like Trivista? How do you get them to our door, or how do we get them in from you?
Right.
Yeah, how do you do that, Lindsey?
Yeah,
I want them all.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we do provide for our partners is making sure that they're connected to the area programs at their local high schools. So if, for instance, you have a diesel tech program in your backyard or at one of your shops over in Indiana, say, and there's a diesel tech program, we want to make sure that you're connected. And in my most recent newsletter, I said, hey, if you are a member of our association and you want a list of all the diesel tech programs that we've compiled across the country at high schools, we're glad to share that with you. And we had somebody researching and finding who the contacts were and what schools that they're offered at. But another thing that we are trying to do as an association is to create more programs. So we've met with several high schools about starting a diesel tech program because they're interested and they reach out to us. But we also are trying to replicate Dave Dine's program, which is a truck driving program at high schools. And so we've met with over 60 high schools across the country to start truck driving programs. And they've come to us because they've heard about what we're doing and the resources that we can provide for them. And so they're reaching out to us saying, hey, we want to provide this opportunity for students in our community. How do we get this started? And I'm excited to say we just got an email last week from a school in Hawaii that's going to start a truck driving program at the high school level.
That's awesome.
Right?
Now, is that the same thing as the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Program, or is that a separate program?
Well, so that's a separate program, but ideally, these programs would lead into career opportunities through the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Program. If you think about the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Program, it's brought to us by the FMCSA. And so you have to have all of these different guidelines through the FMCSA and follow those guidelines if you're going to enter the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Program, which means you're going to hire an 18 to 20-year-old that can't drive interstate technically, but through this program, they're going to have an exemption to be able to drive interstate so they can go across the country. And there's also in that program, that pilot program, through the Department of Labor. So they have to be in a registered apprenticeship program through the Department of Labor. And so ideally, for instance, Dave's program in California, This student, they go to class every single day for an hour. They learn about the trucking industry. They have 2 simulators on site. They have a truck and a trailer. They have a golf cart, and this was new this year, a golf cart and a utility trailer, so kids could practice backing. And because that's a hard thing, right? And so if we can get those young people interested and really give them a strong backbone into trucking and learning all the ins and outs, and then when they graduate from high school, then they enroll in truck driving school and get their behind the wheel training. That truck driving school has said that Dave's students who are 18 are so much more well prepared than any other students they get. And so ideally, these programs would feed into companies that can hire 18 to 20-year-olds because they're going to be so much more well trained. But then they'll go into a finishing program or that apprenticeship program.
Yeah, they're really coming to the table with a lot of assets. John, why don't you talk a little bit about how Trivista has facilitated young students and apprentices here at Trivista Companies?
Absolutely. And this is what excites me the most. I have 3 examples that pop into mind right now. And I mean, just to go back to the vocational schools a little bit and the emphasis that these schools are placing on diesel technicians and driving and things of that nature changed quite a bit. So a lot of the other dealers in this area, we are starting to donate engines, trucks, and things of that nature so that these kids that are coming in are able to work on some of the newer equipment, so they come prepared when we get it. But
so you're donating the engines to the schools?
To the schools, exactly. So they're because we found out years ago they're working on just obsolete stuff, and so they're really not getting prepped. But that's changed a lot. And some of these young people that have been coming in from the high schools that have been at these vocational schools and these apprenticeships, they're doing great. So one example is a young man that's at our Palmyra location. He's been with us for a couple years, Patrick Galligan. And this is, he came from Prosser over in southern Indiana. And just a really, really bright guy. Came in pretty well prepared, so we started him out. Well, this kid loved training. And as mentioned, we offer a lot of in-house training as well, whether it's from the manufacturer, and we pay these people for training as well. So if a young person joins our company and they want to do online training at the house, we will pay them to do that, other than just their regular pay during work. He was a sponge and started taking all this training. So something we do, and Anita, you know about this, on an annual basis, we have something called the Trivista Tech Rodeo. So we have 4 different regions, and each year one of the regions will host a group of the best technicians at Trivista, and they get to compete. They compete on actually working on trucks to see who is the best technician that year. Well, Patrick Galligan has been with us for 2 years, and he won last year just because of how much he loved training. He was able to take that qualifying test. So this is a young man who really didn't travel a heck of a lot. And
Did you say 20 years old?
Yeah, he would have been 20 at the time. Yeah, so we flew him out to Iowa. He got to compete with all these senior technicians and had an absolute blast and did really well. So that's one example. Another example is someone at our New Albany location, Nate, who also graduated from Prosser, and he did a work apprentice program with us as well over at New Albany. And he has been with us for 6 months. He was just recognized nationally as a technician of influence by International. So this is another young man who has just worked extremely hard and has taken the training that he needs. Great attitude. He's got a motor on him, shows up every day. And he got some, not only the good accolades, but he got a great Snap-on gift certificate. He got a lot of international truck swag. And yeah, national recognition. He got patches he could put on his uniform, so he should be proud about that. But the one that I'm proud of all 3 of these people. But the third one is Jason. Jason is a technician here at Trivista at our Louisville location. So this young man basically just came to a career fair. He did not take any programs when he was in high school, but we were at a career fair, and he came up and was just interested in what we were doing. So we had one of our service advisors there and just explain what we do in this industry. And he said, well, that sounds pretty interesting. You think I could come in and check it out? So for a few months while he was still in high school, he was working here a few hours a day. Absolutely loved it. The technicians in the back treated him basically like their son or a little brother or something like that. And this kid has blossomed, young man has blossomed like you wouldn't believe. So he's graduated. He's working full time now. And again, he is just this sponge. He knew nothing about the industry. And he was telling my service manager, he's like, I could probably go work at McDonald's and make the same amount as what I'm starting out as. But he says, I'm getting all this knowledge. I know there's room for growth. And he's doing great. He just bought this awesome toolbox. And I've never seen anyone more proud of a toolbox. It's heartening to see that. So, yeah, exactly. So like I said, there is nothing more as a manager or an owner that you would like to see than to see somebody come up through the ranks like that.
And that is one thing that Gen Z looks for when they're going to work for companies. They want to see that company is going to invest in them and train them and get them to even higher and higher levels. So if you as a company don't have that, then you're not going to be able to attract Gen Z because they want to be invested in.
Or keep them. You might attract them initially, but then they're not going to stay.
Right.
Yeah. What about from the gender perspective? Are you guys seeing the same thing on the female side? Or is it more male? What's the split? What do you think?
It's definitely more male, but we are seeing that there's opportunities for females. One of the things that we offer schools, and we have it on our website, is a job behaviors assessment. And so we have it for diesel technician, for CDL driver, delivery driver, and then auto technician candidate. And so this is a 10-minute assessment that a student can take. And for instance, Dave gave it to all of the juniors if they would make a good truck driver. And so it's not about skills, because skills can be taught. It's about who you are intrinsically and what your behaviors are, and if they line up with the behaviors of a diesel technician or with a truck driver. And if you score a 3 to 5 on this assessment, then you're more likely to succeed in that industry and be retained in that profession. And so through this assessment, females that never considered a career path in trucking were like, oh, I did not realize that I have the behaviors of what it takes to make a good professional truck driver, and I'm going to take his class. And so he's really increased his female enrollment. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is be able to give that to schools so they can help identify a more diverse market.
That's pretty interesting, because that makes sense. You don't know what you don't know. And if you're not exposed to that opportunity, you would have never thought that maybe that's something you would like to do. So
I got just a couple of examples, if I may, Anita. So, and I'm, again, from the perspective of a truck dealership, not a logistics company, but some of the most successful people we have at Trivista, women. I mean, case in point, you're one of our directors. There aren't that many directors in this organization. And right now, I am telling you, 2 of our top salespeople, whether it's in truck sales or lease and rental, are women that are just absolutely killing it. So, there's room for everyone.
exactly right. And I think it's important to also say, too, that those women and men wouldn't be successful, though, if the company culture wasn't supportive and wasn't structured in such a way that it allowed for that growth and, the opportunity to kind of find your way into that position. So I think Trivista does a really good job of supporting those roles. So I think that's kind of half of the equation as well.
Nice.
We've talked a little bit about some of the successes. What do you guys see as some of the biggest challenges in maybe hiring for the trucking industry? I know you have a lot of programs out there, and there's a lot of support, but what do you guys think are some of the challenges that you guys have to face?
I think it's still just about creating awareness. And Lindsey really touched on it earlier, taking that stigma away from what the trucking industry really represents. I mean, it is such a robust industry that is absolutely vital to our economy, for one thing. And a diesel technician maybe at one time could have been looked at as like, well, that's just, somebody, just a mechanic that's turning a wrench. It's so sophisticated today. And when you look at the technology, every one of our technicians has a computer. They have to understand diagnostics. Everything we do is computer-based. And you look at, again, some of the electric vehicles that are going to be coming into the industry. It is just something that it's very fast-paced. It's always moving, and you're not doing the same thing every day. So I think it's just creating that awareness that this is a great industry to be involved with.
Yeah, and we're putting together, and it should be done this summer, it's a career presentation about careers in trucking. And it is going to be available for anybody in the industry that wants to go to their local school system and either present on careers in trucking or make sure the school has it so their teachers can make sure trucking is represented. And so in a lot of states, they do career exploration classes in 8th grade. And so making sure that trucking is represented is something that we all need to do as an industry. And so we're putting together this presentation based on what Gen Z finds appealing about trucking careers. And it's going to be really exciting and interactive, but easy to follow. Because if you have a tech or a service tech that says, hey, I want to go to my local high school and give this presentation, we want to make it as easy to follow for a driver, a technician, and the president of a company. And so we think that if we can get industry involvement to raise awareness, then we're going to succeed as an industry, because young people don't know about trucking careers, and what they do think is not correct. They probably don't know that technicians have to work with a computer and hook their trucks up to computers, right? We've got to explain that to these young people and get them excited, because young people are interested in technology.
Absolutely.
I would agree with that 100%. Well, guys, we're nearing the end of our time today. I'm just wondering, is there anything else that you would like to add, comment on, maybe about your association? If somebody wanted to hook up with you or, partner with your association in some way, can you kind of explain the process for doing that?
Sure. You can join our association on our website, and our website's nextgentrucking.org. If you have questions or want to even just meet with me or want to learn how you can maybe start a program in your local community at your local high school, I am glad to meet with you. And I literally meet with people weekly, schools weekly, about starting truck driver programs or diesel tech programs or even supply chain and logistics programs. And so my email address is lindsey@nextgentrucking.org, and that's lindsey@nextgentrucking.org. Visit us online. We are just literally, the biggest thing that we're about is the student and elevating a student's life. And we really feel like we can elevate a student's life through careers in trucking. And so, we are about our industry and elevating our industry and getting that diverse, skilled workforce, which is what we want. But if you think about it, the way we're doing that is by reaching a young person and changing their life, because we're giving them a new future and a hope in this great career field that is going to change their family tree and their future. And so if we can just reach these young people and create these programs, then we think that our society is going to be better off.
I love it. That's a bold statement, and I love it.
And we should leave it with that, but I so much appreciate your passion, Lindsey, because I have been on several boards in the trucking industry where we talk about how can we get people interested, young people interested in coming into this industry. And we will brainstorm for a little while. We come up with a couple of ideas, and then we talk about it the next month we get together. Lindsey's doing this every day, doing a phenomenal job creating awareness. So thank you so much for what you do. We really do.
It's so fun. It really is.
I can see your passion. Well, I think it's a great partnership, and I know we look forward to working with you even more. So thank you both for joining us today.
And thank you guys for being a founding member of NextGen.
Absolutely welcome. It's a pleasure. Thanks, guys. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Truck Talk with Trivista podcast. You can find more podcast talks or general information about Trivista Companies and its many dealerships at trivistacompanies.com. Until next time, be safe out there.